All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the November 16, 2025 edition of O-Scale Central Online. I'm David Vaughn. Repeat viewers can probably recite from memory the introduction to the program, but new viewers, either live or on rebroadcast on YouTube, have not. So indulge me and them, but welcome to our program. O-scale 2-rail is a model railroad scale of 1/4 inch to the foot, 1:48 proportions. It runs on 2-rail track, just like prototype trains. OS2R is almost 8 times the mass of HO. The scale has detail you can see, mass you can feel, and satisfying models you can build. Although nominally the same scale as Lionel, O-scale 2-rail trains are built to prototype proportions, operate in a prototype manner, and use 2-rail track, and we don't have any giraffe cars. O-Scale Central, which sponsors this program, is a nonprofit 501c3 tax-exempt membership corporation whose mission it is to promote 2-rail O-Scale and support modelers in the scale. We are NMRA's Special Interest Group, or SIG, for O-Scale. O-Scale Central has an information-filled website at oscalecentral.com. If you're new to the scale or just O-Scale curious, check out the website. There are introductory materials to give you an overview of the scale and help you connect with resources that would enable you to model in the scale. O-Scale Central publishes a quarterly journal and a monthly newsletter filled with interesting features about O-Scale 2-rail products, modelers, layouts, clinics, and news. We maintain an active outreach program to train shows, RPM meets, and NMRA conventions. New initiatives right now include modular standards and layout documentation. We also sponsor this monthly online program using the Zoom platform. We bring in top manufacturers, importers, and newsmakers in the scale, present layout tours of quality O-Scale 2-rail layouts, short clinics, and news you can use. The invitation for this program go out the Wednesday before it airs. To give people a bit of heads up on the program content, I've been including photographs of some of the different presentations and presenters. I note that the invitations for this month's program initially omitted the photos that I had carefully inserted. And when the invitation was resent, the formatting on the PDF file got screwed up and the programs looked as though they had been randomly thrown at the page. I apologize for the multiple invitations and for the glitches. Hopefully the photographs will provide an incentive for people to be on the program, since it's quite an exciting program we have. By the way, if you miss any program or know someone who should see it, the programs are recorded and will be available on YouTube, either directly through our website or directly through YouTube. Again, it's at oscalecentral.com to access it through our website. O-Scale 2-rail is a scale small in numbers of active modelers, and because of that small size, the scale operates largely below the radar without the manufacturing support, advertising, and visibility enjoyed by the more popular scales. But the O-Scale community is tight-knit, and we are supportive of each other and of new O-Scale modelers. O-Scale Central and other organizations keep us on the move. We provide this program, as well as our website, as a service to the scale. You need not be a member to use the website or to view this program. We think keeping the O-Scale 2-rail community informed, educated, and cohesive is important. That said, we hope you'll see the benefit of what we do, enjoy the program, and join OSC. Go to the website, find the membership section, and follow the prompts. Your dues, a steal at $24 a year for the basic membership, makes this program and our other activities possible. By the way, for current O-Scale Central members, it is time to re-up for next year. You'll be receiving invitations and encouragement on that. We generally start this program with news and announcements. The list is fairly short today, but I do want to hit it. First, I want to note that the Cleveland O-Scale show was held in Parma, Ohio on November 1st, with a second day set aside for an O-Scale 2-rail modular meet. Skylar Shippey, who serves also as O-Scale Central's president, has taken over and revitalized the Cleveland show. Using modules from the Detroit Model Railroad Club and from Rich Randall and the Gettysburg area O-Scalers, all of which have been built to a common standard, were present at the show. So we had, for the first time that I'm aware of, two sets of modules from different locations operating together using common standards. This is not quite as significant as the first message sent over the internet, but we think it's pretty cool, and we think it is something we're going to be building, part of a growing O-Scale modular movement. We know that a lot of younger and newer modelers in particular are tight on space or budget or both, and need to be mobile as they move around. Modelers who have individual layouts but want group participation and bigger running opportunities can also use modelers. And finally, modelers who are downsizing can do the same. So next fall, in connection with the Cleveland show, expect modular meet year 2. We also have kickoffs for two important O-Scale 2-rail train shows, Chicago's March Meet and O-Scale West. If you look on your invitation to this show, you will see the brief introduction to the Chicago Meet, which is going to be March 19th through 22nd, and O-Scale West, which is going to be March 6 and 7. The locations and the online contact addresses are provided. I would note that the O-Scale West program in particular is new in its approach. It's no longer going to be held on Memorial Day weekend. It's no longer going to be held in an expensive hotel, and is not going to be hotel centered. But Rod Miller has put a lot of thought and a very thorough survey into revamping O-Scale West. And by all means, check out the invitation, check out other developments in our coming events section from on the O-Scale Central website. We have a terrific program today with 3 formal segments. Let me tell you about them very briefly. Our headliner is John Sethian, who will use a great PowerPoint to tell us about his layout and how he approaches modeling. He has agreed to make time for questions. Last month, Daniel Rabel walked us through a very informative, user-friendly presentation on CAD design and 3D printing and how to make it work for you. Dan left us with several works in progress and has had an unexpected month of furlough in which he's been able to work on some additional projects. So he's going to give us a brief update on what's on his workbench, or at least what's in his computer. And finally, I have a little ditty called Don't Be Afraid to Make a Scene, that focuses on putting together detailed scenes from unexpected places. I have 3 quick examples. They're intended to be get you thinking and give you some inspiration. That segment will complete the formal program. That said, we will keep the line open for two types of announcements. The first will be announcements from any manufacturers or service providers of any new products or services or anything else of interest. We'll simply have that as an announcement. The second will be announcements from people who have O-scale two-rail items for sale. It's informal. It's pretty unadorned, but you can't beat the price. And it'll give us another way to communicate, be part of a community, and avoid eBay. So our first segment, as indicated, will be John Sethian. John is a fantastic modeler. He brings his personal interests into the concept, construction, and operation of his meticulous O-scale two-rail Pennsy Northeast Corridor layout. John is retired from a career as a nuclear physicist with the Department of Defense, and he lives in Northern Virginia. John, you are on, and you can use screen share.
I assume that's on. Everybody can see that?
Yep.
All right. A couple comments before I begin. First of all, thank you, David, for the opportunity to give a presentation about my layout. I only hope I can live up to your introduction. My second comment goes to Greg Vigiano. Greg, did you feel you needed to knock back a couple of glasses of wine so you could listen to my talk?
Not at all,
Okay.
John. I've seen your layout, and it's best seen sober.
Okay. All right. Anyway, with that in mind, I'm going to talk about the PRR Nassau division. So named Nassau because its primary focus is on Princeton Junction. But this is a two-rail layout that models the electrified main line, the Pennsylvania Railroad through New Jersey, circa 1956. This is a picture of what I just showed, except without all the banners on it. And this is kind of the signature scene on the layout. It describes Princeton Junction. 4-track main line, the 2 inner tracks are for high speed, which being a speed freak, I kind of like. The outer tracks were for picking up people at the station. There were platforms on either side of the station. There's a small commuter train here, a spur line that goes to the borough of Princeton. There's a whole story behind how the university forced the Pennsylvania Railroad to move further and further away. Some of the salient features of the Princeton Junction are the 2 platforms on either side, the signal lights in the background, the characteristic wooden walkways that encourage you to walk out as far as you dare to the track, the iron fence here, which I made from brass. That's not the flat fiber things that Atlas shares. And my favorite thing is the catenary pole that goes right through the platform roof. Not quite sure how they did that or the order they did that, but they did. I'm going to go down to track level right here. This is one of my favorite scenes, and it's a splendid example of why we model in O scale. I call this in-your-face modeling. You're not doing this with a smaller scale. You have to use a normal camera to get down, and it really conveys the mass, the detail, the sheer size, and immensity of what O-scale railroading is about. My approach to building a layout. I was a philosophy major for half my undergraduate career, so I thought I would bring that up. I always play into that. First of all, I view model railroading as one big science experiment. To me, the truly fun part is to look at reality and then figure out and invent ways to faithfully scale that reality down to 1/48 full size. It's a little harder than you think. It's more challenging, but it's rewarding. Second, my fidelity to railroad equipment. That's not only locomotives and rolling stock, but it's also the signal lights, the whole infrastructure around the railroad. I have rivet counter proclivities. I try to get it right. I don't always get it right, but that's important to me. Second, the fidelity to scenery and to structures. Best be described as inspired by, but not beholden to. I take the Edward Hopper approach, if I could be so bold as to compare myself to Edward Hopper. The art is more important than reality. What Hopper used to do, no matter where he was, in New York City, Cape Ann, New Mexico, in France, he used to walk around, look the streets, look at the buildings, put it all together in his head, and then come out and produce something that captured the basic feel of the place, but not necessarily the brick by brick reality. That means things like composition, lighting, shadows, a harmonious and subdued color palette are important to me. And finally, and this is the toughest thing for everybody, including myself, is to ruthlessly leave stuff out. That is the key to simplicity, realism, and making it all fit. Example, I don't have any operations on my lab. I just want to be the rail fan next to the side of the tracks. So there's no operations, no switching. There's no engine terminals. There's no caboose tracks, cabin car tracks. You get the idea. This is example of what I'm talking about by lighting and composition. This is the Federal coming into Princeton Junction. Whole idea behind this, if you look at this thing first glance, your eye is caught by the single gold stripe on the GG1. It then goes here, sees the light around the pickup truck. That's a model, by the way, of Ken Breyer's pickup truck, which some of you may have seen at Pennsylvania Railroad events. But anyway, your eye goes up to this guy looking over the tracks, then to the signal tower, to this light bulb, and to the baggage wagon right here. There are several things about this. First of all, I needed a lot of background and side lights to illuminate things like the side of the signal bridge, the transmission towers up here, little town here, which goes in the same direction of the train. But I also omitted things. I did not omit a light over the Nassau Tower sign because that would distract from the view. Another example, which is what I call a lady at Princeton Junction waiting for I have no idea what. I deliberately darkened the background. I have the light from the phone booth is shining on her. And so also she's getting lit by the light from the Princeton Junction station. It's actually a hut. I don't know what she's doing. I really don't. Is she waiting for somebody? Is she waiting for a phone call? Is she trying to get up the courage to call somebody? It doesn't matter. It sets the scene. And I even went so far, the first time I took this picture, I noticed all those leaves on the platform. I dutifully swept them all up, and I realized it ruined the effect. So I had to put the leaves back in the exact same places I left them. This is my track plan. Unlike a lot of people, I built my track plan around specific scenes. I had a whole list of scenes. I laid them out, and then the track between them. Now, needless to say, I had many more scenes than I had room for, so they all got thrown out, part of that ruthless pairing. But the main scenes are the 4-track over 4-track flyover, Princeton Junction, which I showed you here earlier. The New Line Makes the World Takes Bridge. Don't worry, I'll show you this. The big city, which I call New Lion. Factories looming over tracks leaving the city. The Whitford Bridge, which Griff Teller made famous in his main lines freight and passenger painting. And the Edward Hopper second story sunlight, which is looming over the top here. So the basic flow of my talk is there are intertwining themes. I'm trying desperately to get rid of I'll put it down there. The talk mixes 3 intertwining themes. That means if you don't like the current subject, just wait a few slides. First of all, there are the glamour shots around the railroad, of which I've shown you a few of them. There are sections on how I did it, the modeling techniques, how I did a lot of my 3-rail to 2-rail conversions, the scenery, and of course the catenary. You can't ignore that. And then I also talk about some of my layout methods, maintenance, dust control, controlling of sight lines. So with that, let's get on with the show. This is Princeton Junction again at track level view. Trains are coming in. The reason I show this is because if you notice here, the rain gutters on the top of the roofs of the platform are bent. I made those rain gutters as accurate as I could to the original. They're made out of 9 separate pieces of plastruck shapes, half circles, angles, strips, whatever. And of course, after I made the darn thing, I realized the rain gutters were bent. I felt bad about that, but not bad enough to redo it. And then my good friend Rick Wright sent me this photo of the real Princeton Junction station in the Conrail era, and note the rain gutters are bent. So I'm happy to know I got it right. Pure accident, but nevertheless, we'll take it from there. I titled this talk the Day the Power Went Out in New Jersey, or at least the Canton area. It's to show that I don't always run electrics. I do run occasional diesels or even steam. This is a Sunset GP7 passenger train, actually an MTHB unit, and cars from a host of manufacturers. It's leaving Princeton Junction. You notice my super elevation. All my track is super elevated. But I'd like you to notice a couple things, other things about this. Number one, the meadow back here. Number two is this building right here. And number three is the tree line. We'll go to the tree line first. I use tree lines as artistic elements. They control the horizon, perspective, and sight lines. So in order to do that, the trees can't be scale height. Sorry about that, but something's got to go. And the reason is very simple. If the trees are full scale height, which would mean 20 to 24 inches high, you can't establish horizon because you can't see the sky. That means you lose perspective and a sense of distance. Everything looks like it's crammed together right in front of you. My crude drawing, you can see an eyeball, a beautiful rendition of a train, and a tree. And here's the sky over here. If, on the other hand, the trees are subscale height, meaning 12 to 14 inches, the horizon is established because you can see the sky. The tree is towards the back of the train. That forces the perspective and sense of distance. And that's what you saw in those previous photos. Now I have more fun with trees. First of all, I vary the leaf density, control the sight line. By leaf density, I mean the number of leaves together in one particular spot. All my trees are made with super trees and about 7 or 8 different types of armature, ranging from Christmas tree armatures to plastic armatures to real trees like sagebrush. And then I put leaves on. The photo on the left, you'll notice the trees here, there's a fair amount of leaves there, a high density of leaves. Same on the right, but in the middle, it's not. You can see through the leaves and you can see what is Nassau Hall on the Princeton campus. And I wanted you to do that. In fact, the entire borough of Princeton is back behind these trees, but you can't see them only if you look through certain angles. So that makes it very intriguing for the viewer because he or she has to find them, and it doesn't overload the viewer with a bunch of lit buildings all at once. Along the same lines, here I have, this is the classic Revell barn. I'm sure every one of you had at least one. It came out in 1957, and it's sitting out in the field. There are trees on either side of it. So if you are off here, you're not going to be able to see that barn. Same if you're off to the right. But if you're looking head on, you are. And that again makes it interesting for the viewer. And it's artistic composition, et cetera, et cetera. Here's another thing. Don't be afraid to put your trains in the background. I go to a lot of layouts, and generally what you have is a flat area in which there's very little, then the tracks, then the background behind it. Not only is that boring, it's unrealistic. What I do is I try to have places where there's scenery in front that kind of hide the trains, or better yet, the trains pop out from behind the scenery. In this case, this is a P5 box cab. If you look closely, you can see the pantographs here back here in the woods. The train is coming. The other thing is that if you look at this red truck, which is the first thing you see when you open it, it guides your eye along the road here to a tunnel up, and you see the train coming out. By the way, kids love this scene. You show this to them, they crowd to get to the side of the layout to see the train pop out, and eventually parental control has to take force. Now, one of the interesting things about New Jersey, it's not flat nor mountainous. So I'm kind of jealous of all you people who do the Rocky Mountains or the desert outside Nebraska. Here, you have to make a gentle rolling terrain. And the way I do it, build all my scenery on what I call platters, which are just 2-inch thick foam that's carved the general shape of what it's going to look like. And then I use polyfiber, the kind you get to fill pillows and make really cheap trees and that kind of stuff. Roll it up and lay it flat. I cover it with plaster cloth, and then I've seen it with the usual scenery methods. That gives you a nice, gently undulating rolling terrain. I'd say just like New Jersey, but it's more like just like Virginia, because I actually took a ride about 10 miles from my house and photographed that, and I copied it. But Virginia and Jersey are the same. Notice another couple things here. First of all, my terrain drops off as you get close to the background. That helps setting the horizon. And notice the trees become smaller as you get to the horizon. This is one of my favorite pictures simply because it brings back a lot of memories. 4 tracks crossing over 4 tracks. Memories of my 1957 Lionel 027 layout, which, by the way, are extremely inaccurate in this particular case. What I've got here is the Pennsy 4-track main. It's splitting into 3 sections. Double track main going through a portal, single track main on either side, and that's with high fill on either side of the tracks. That's pure Pennsy. Remember that building I told you to pay attention to in my slide entitled "That's when the lights that Cantonary went out in Jersey"? That's that building right there. The train was up there. So the tracks actually go here, curve to the left, and go under a tunnel. I suppose I should talk about catenary since I put one in there. This is basic catenary construction. The catenary itself for all the parts in light blue. There's a messenger wire. This is the part that actually does the up and down, with the sag going like the parabolic curve. Underneath is the auxiliary wire, and below that is the trolley wire. Those are the 3 components of the catenary. The reason the Pennsy did this way is the auxiliary wire is permanently attached to the messenger wire. The trolley wire, on the other hand, is held on with clamps. And what the Pennsy did was, when the trolley wire wore out, which it does because the pantograph is rubbing against it, they unclamped the trolley wire and put a new one in place. The whole affair, the catenary, is held up with a hanger wire, which holds the messenger wire, and then goes through and holds a steady wire that goes across, which are then in turn held in place by V hangers. And the V hangers go between the auxiliary wire and the trolley wire. Needless to say, this whole thing's got to be held up with something. So there's the catenary pole. In this particular case, it's an H column. And the H column has cross beams that go across to another H column. And there's an angle brace here. If you turn this thing on its side, it looks like a K. They're called K beams. Now, before we go and tell me that this column is wrong, I will tell you that the Pennsy had numerous types of columns to hold up their catenary. It depends where they were built. It depends when they were built, because as these things were being built, new steel production methods and fabrications are coming out. And also depends what the surrounding land looks like. If the Pennsy could own their land outside the track, they could simply use guy wires to hold this thing up. They could dispense with the cross beam and angles here. For making the catenary, I made mine from 20,000th inch diameter phosphor bronze wire. I soldered it together with silver bearing solder and superior number 30 flux. That's silver bearing solder, not silver solder. If you use silver solder, you need a much higher temperature. You'll melt everything and probably gag yourself with the flux. I got the last remaining piece of straight poplar from Home Depot. They haven't sold one since then. And on that, I laid out what the catenary should look like. These are track spikes. I put the wire in there. There's a little, you barely can see it. This is a hanger rod that goes between the wires, and I solder the whole thing together. And as you can see, the things are color-coded depending on the length of the catenary. My catenary varies between 34 inches and 20 inches long, depending on where they are on the track. And each one has to be custom made for the curve or the place of the track. I wrote an article in a Railroad Model Craftsman if anybody's interested in it. Now, on top of the catenary, there's high poles that hold up the high tension wires. These are the high voltage wires that run at 11,000 volts. There are wires that carry that high voltage from one pole to the next. I use 15 thousandths diameter phosphor bronze. I bent the ends to a small U-shaped hook, and I hang them from the bottom of the insulators. This, in my opinion, is the proper way to do any kind of wiring, telephone wires, transmission wires, or whatever, because the phosphor bronze hangs with the proper sag. It doesn't change its length or its sag as the temperature changes. It's far superior to easy wire. And if you should bang one of them and knock it off, well, the hooks simply come undone. You pick it off the floor and put it back. By the way, this structure here is a representation of John Roebling and Sons wire rope. That was a Trenton factory. Didn't look exactly like this, but that's neither here nor there. They are the people who designed and built the Brooklyn Bridge. Unfortunately, Roebling, after designing the Brooklyn Bridge, the day construction started, he slipped on a rock on the river shore and killed himself. All right, it's rough. His son took over, and then later his son's wife took over, but the company itself kept going for quite a while. Another one of my favorite scenes is Griff Teller's 1949 PRR calendar, mainline freight and passenger at the Whitford Bridge in Exton, Pennsylvania. So I played hooky from work one day and drove out there to photograph it extensively. I was a little disappointed to find out Mr. Teller didn't exactly follow what the Whitford Bridge area looked like. But undaunted, I built something that depicted it in O scale. And if I do say so, my depiction is far more accurate when Teller was encouraged to paint. Among other things, no J1 ran over that bridge. The units here, these are MTH at P5As that I two-railed. One of the more challenging two-railing jobs I ever did. I took the liberty of putting the modified unit behind the box cabs. I think the box cabs are much cooler. If you look here, these blocks are actually made from Lego blocks. I think somebody who worked for Lego was once employed by the Pennsylvania Railroad making masonry because they're all in an exact shape. I basically paint them, cover them with spackling compound, recruited all the kids in the neighborhood to put them together, and then assembled them. The bridge here is a Lionel 321 trestle bridge, the kind you may have gotten as a kid. I didn't. This is a used car lot. We'll get to that in a minute. But now I want to concentrate on these three buildings here. That is my rendition of Edward Hopper's second story Sunlight. Hopper had the advantage he only painted the front of two building houses and just a sliver of another one and couldn't be bothered with the ground floor. So you saw in the last slide, I kind of had to wing it, and this is what I came up with. That woman were three female artistic figures who had to give up their limbs, their torsos, their head in order to get something close to the pose that this lady here had. If you look at this and you compare the two, it may not look accurate. So let's not look at the original and decide how beautiful it is. This is my Lionel N5 that I showed earlier. It's in front of my used car lot. The car lot is a model of every car I've ever owned. I had to look far and long to find cars that exact replicas. In some cases, I had to take them apart and paint them. Now, my layout is set in 1956, and only that car, and that car were built before 1956. So I took a little artistic license, and I called my place JD Motors, and their slogan is "The cars of tomorrow, here today." This, by the way, is a Bar Mills gas station. Now let's go to the, that red car right there. If I have time, I'll tell you that's the reason I modeled in two-rail O scale. It's an interesting story. I want to go to this N5. Occasionally, Lionel makes some very, very nice cars. Their N5 is one of them. The body shape, the dimensions are spot on. The roof is spot on. It's one of the few O scale models that got the cupola right bringing it down to the body and not ending it on the roof line, the roof stacks in the right place, and all that. Now, what I did, I had to do a fair amount to make this look realistic. I lowered it. I made the whole rear railing structure complete with the crash post, the ladder, the brake, the chains, and everything. I made the wood roof walk, remade the interior, added a lighting circuit, glass windows, added Yoder tuck, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, to make that rear railing assembly, I finally threw in the towel and was forced to buy a resistant soldering device because every time I soldered something, they got another part came across. But I've used it since then, so it was time well spent. This is a curve. You notice the upper second story sunlight is up here. This is a curve. It's a broad sweeping curve. It's somewhat inspired by Griff Teller's 1956 dynamic progress in that it's got an aero train and it's got a truck train. The aero train is an MTH model, which comes with 3 cars. I took it over to Rick Wright's layout, and the aero train locomotive would not pull the 3 cars. It was that weak. So I ended up having to remake all the bearings of the cars, get them close coupled together. For the locomotive itself, I added some weight in strategic places, 2-railed it, moved the truck side inwards. So most importantly, I could move install fender skirts. The model came without fender skirts, which I consider to be abhorrent and a crime against O-scalers everywhere. If you're going to have something that's designed after 57 Chevy, it should have fender skirts. The truck train itself are Lionel F30Ds. I modified them by adding rub rails, jack stands, counterbalance weight, crash posts, and all the other paraphernalia that was on the original truck train. Somebody in Pennsylvania Railroad must have had a fear of a trailer falling off a car, because those trailers weren't going anywhere. The trailers themselves are Weaver trailers. I modified the side according to the common carrier represented. And then I made decals by finding photographs of the common carriers and stretching them and elongating them or whatever to label each car. This building here, I should point out, Mason Manufacturing, this is made by the N-scale architect. Poor advertising. I don't know why you would make O-scale stuff. You were the N-scale architect. But they make these very nice building sides that are very flexible. They're thin polystyrene. They come with a variety of different wood structural features you can glue on. And they come with etched brass windows of various types you can glue behind it. This formerly was Dennis Brennan's O-scale roundhouse. It's a hydrocal kit. I modified it to make a factory. And these here are take my word for it, there's one on the other side. 3 Walmart clocks that I put in here. I made dial faces for them using the Miller Engineering electroluminescent panels, so the clocks line up at night. It's a very handy feature when you're ready to have your visitors go, oh my, look at the time. Sometimes that works. Now let's get in some, bloody mechanical engineering. This is I just lost my, Help. Okay, back. I guess George Coase doesn't want me to talk about his locomotive. These is a Coase GG1. It's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful model, but it needs a lot of mechanical electrical work. I even wrote 2 articles in O-scale trains about it. First of all, the wheel gauge is too large everywhere. Second, it's got a very faulty U-joint design. And third, it only navigates 40 to 80-inch radius curves. They also have very low pulling power because of a host of reasons. My favorite one being they couldn't be bothered to get the flux out of the bearings, so they're all corroded. Let's address just 2 of them. The U-joint. They originally came with a poorly designed, quote, unique soft universal joint, which is basically 2 aluminum discs with nylon screws between them. And the nylon screws banged into each other and that's transmitted the power. As you might imagine, those eventually broke, and the thing sounded, like a rubber band broken. You solve that by getting a U-joint and a smaller motor. You don't need the big honking Pitton motor that goes in there. Get another 9,000 series motor. You just get conventional U-joints. That enables the chassis to go around 48-inch radius curve. The body's a different story, and the reason is the ladders hang out and interfere with the truck. Coe's made exact quarter-inch scale trucks, but running on OW5 track, which means the truck side frames stick out way too far. The way I solved that problem was I cut the ladders right below the body, and I glued the lower half to the upper half with Pliobond. Pliobond, you probably remember that. That's the space-age rubber cement, been around forever. It's very flexible. So what happens is when the locomotive goes around a turn, the truck side frame swings out, it pushes the ladder out, and it now negotiates 48 inches radius. And then there's a little magnet that holds the thing back flat. It's kind of fun to see it go around the curve, go all these ladders sticking out. Pick a phrase from David Vaughn. I have a version of the giraffe car on my layout. The Sunset GG1s, again, great detail, accurate dimensions, but they also need a lot of work. First of all, you need to put the weight over the drive wheels. Second of all, you need to make new motor mounts. This is the Sunset motor round. Here's the motor. This is the pulley. This is a cog belt that drives another pulley behind here. You'll notice the motor is held with this, it could have been spring steel for all I know. The steel section that goes like this goes through 3 bends, held very to the chassis side frame between the side frames, and that's not a very stiff thing. And the motor freely moves up and down. The way you solve that is fairly straightforward. I built a new motor mount. It's a 1/4-inch square brass stock. You don't need a mill to do this. I did this all on my drill press. The only thing you need to make sure is the ends are square enough to be soldered and screwed into the rear bracket. Now the motor is held very, very, very rigidly. The thing goes around, turns very smoothly. One more thing you might want to do is you might want to add power to the center drivers. I'm not sure why these drivers were not powered, because that's where the weight is. Rod Miller helped me design the chain and sprocket center drivers. And again, these things are now very smooth, very quiet. Oh, I talk about adding weight. I am a great fan of using tungsten alloy crankshaft plates in all my motors. These tungsten alloy is 1.57 times heavier than lead. That means you can strategically place it right over the driveways. They're available from a company called MyTech Metals. And if you just look under MyTech crankshaft weight, you'll find them. They come in diameters from 7/16 diameter to 1-inch diameter. They're 7/8 to 1.5 inches long, so you'll get one to fit. Here's the Coe's GG1, where you see one weight here and one weight here. You'll notice they're right over the trucks. So this Coe's can pull the house down. Almost. There was a problem with this in that I run DCS on my layout, and the DCS units were overheating because with all this weight and pulling all the cars, I was exceeding the 2 amp rated limit for the DCS system, and the triac right here, the rectifier, and other components were overheating. I solved that by putting heat sinks right here, but then being cute, I went one step further, and I decided I need to put real blowers in my GG1. So these are little electric muffin fans underneath the DCS system, and they're blowing cool air. They get it from the bottom where Coe's had originally mounted the speaker hold, comes up, blows through the DCS system, and out the vents at the side of the locomotive. It works great. Plus gives back bragging rights. Okay, new topic. My freight car conversion protocol. For this case, I convert Lionel PS1 Polar Express boxcar. By the way, never buy a Lionel car in the colors you think you want. First of all, Lionel, 5 times out of 10 will get the color wrong, and second of all, it's more expensive. Get the Polar Express car or the Star Trek car or whatever. They're much cheaper after the big rush dries down. This one I strip with 91% alcohol. That takes the Lionel paint right off. I prime it with Rust-Oleum Auto Primer. I use Vallejo Air because I love it. That's my new go-to paint after Polish Scale gave up. Use their thinner and flow improver. It goes on flat and very smooth. And then I put on a clear gloss enamel coat for the decal surface. For my couplers, I use KD 800 series couplers. I bolt them directly to the underframe, no spacers. I cut off the trip pin because I'm not doing operations, and I add an air hose, you see right here. And for the trucks, I use either Intermountain or KD, and I adjust the bolster so the coupler is the right height. I figure if the coupler is at the right height, then the car will ride at the right height. So moving up in complexity, I wanted to make an X29B. This was the only 40-foot boxcar to have this colorful merchandise service paint scheme. Of course, it's not made in O scale, so I built one. The prototype was made by attaching a taller and wider boxcar body to an X29 chassis. I took the lead and I built it the same way. I got an axleless X29 chassis, a trainman boxcar with diagonal roof, a 7-foot door. I had to patch up the trainman, the boxcar body to get it to fit. Scratch built clamps. Those are these things right here. And then a bunch of Intermountain and precision scale hardware. You can see the X29 chassis underneath here. You notice an X29 because the trucks are placed much further apart than normal trucks. And then the boxcar is bolted on top of it. But now let's take things to the extreme. I made a model of the fake Louisville and Nashville baggage car that was used to transport strategic nuclear materials for the AEC. Wonder if that one got out. The AEC had convinced the Louisville and Nashville to purpose modify 3 sleepers to carry these materials. This is one it's in a museum somewhere, so they actually exist. The only indication of what they were carrying was this very discreet assignee notice. Assigned United States Atomic Energy Commission, loading only, when empty, return to LNRR, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I'm sure anybody who took the time to read that wondered what the hell was going on. Well, I took a Golden Gate sleeper. I think I cut it up into close to 16 pieces, all vertical pieces, had this massive jigsaw puzzle, and put them all together to get the right window spacing, the blanks, and even this fake baggage door right here. I also put a glowing green light behind that baggage door, which is prototypically incorrect, but so what? Now back to something a little more normal. These are Lionel Sharks. I converted them to 2-rail. I wrote about it in the O-Scale annual that just came out. Much to my surprise, Lionel got the wheelbase of the trucks correct. No other manufacturer, I think, has got that except possibly Overland. So, hell, that's begging to be modified. This is the original Lionel Sharks. You can see the gaping back of the pilot, the huge coupler hole, the big gap between the A and the B units, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's sort of wrong. I won't go through how I fixed it all, but one of the things I wanted to point out is my standard way of converting to 2-rail operation is what I call plunger electrical pickups. I take the 3-rail roller, take it apart, bolt the base plate back where it came from. Remember, that's now connected to the high voltage terminals inside the locomotive. Soldered a brass tube, and then use escutcheon pins with springs behind them, and they push against the inside surface of the wheel. This works remarkably well. I've been doing it since 2006. I've never had a failure. I'm going to change the subject now completely. I realize that there are probably as many ways to clean track as there are O-scalers or HO-scalers or model rails altogether. But I use something called the CMX track cleaning car. It's basically this brass tube that you fill with the track cleaning fluid of your hoist. You adjust this knob and it gently drips track cleaning fluid onto these pads. After one lap around my layout, this is what you get. Only the lead pad has got the fluid on it. That's why I have you see here the rollers to pick up the rest. I have done this once. The last time I did it was over a year ago, and I've not touched my track since then. I use Track Magic track cleaning fluid. It's available from Amazon. You can also use mineral spirits, but mineral spirits, I don't like its smell. Also, I don't like its cost. It's too cheap compared to the Track Magic. When you're done, put a very thin coat of Sandshed no oxide grease on top of it. Very, very thin coat. Avoid the grades. It does make things slippery. And with that, you won't have to do anything except vacuum your track every so often. And how do you vacuum your track? I use, bang the bass drum, Mega Maid, for those of you who watch Spaceballs. This is a Musu vacuum available from Amazon. I don't think an exact Musu is available now, but other things are available. I modified it by changing the nozzle by putting this big collector nozzle right here, made out of basswood, suitably sealed and polished, of course. And then I push it around with a locomotive of my choice. You need a flat car, idler car, because the end here sticks out too far. And it does an excellent job cleaning up your track. It gets all the dust, the debris, all the Atlas couplers that exploded, anything. You notice in here, all the fuzz that's in here. You then unscrew it and take it apart. It's easy to clean. These fins here, in addition to looking ultra cool, are ultra important because they block the exhaust from the Musu from going sideways and taking out all your scenery, knocking off your people. Instead, it just goes straight up. Now, as long as we're getting dust off the track, I might as well get dust off the rest of the layout room. And what I use are HEPA filters. These are available from, of course, Amazon. And the inside, they have a long-term filter and particulate filter, and then they have a activated charcoal pre-filter. I put them on these inverted trash cans so they intercept the dust as it's going down and not let the layout intercept all the dust instead. The activated charcoal filter lasts about 6 months. The main filters have lasted at least 3 years, 4 years. When the visitors come, I put the thing on the floor, put the trash can on top of it, and people ask innocently, why is the trash can there? Okay. This works very, very well. Notice a couple other things about here. There's this black handrail around here. This is basically Schedule 40 PVC pipe. It serves 3 purposes. First of all, it keeps visitors out of my weeds. I didn't have this, and the first time I showed the layout to everybody, I noticed my guests were walking upstairs and they all had incriminating pieces of my foliage on their leaves, on their sleeves. So this keeps it away. Second of all, it gives visitors something to lean onto instead of the canton area. And I find that people do lean onto it. And third, and probably most important, is when you're working under the layout, you reach up, you grab a hold of this handrail and pull yourself up. Works great and cheap. This is my big city, also known as New Lion. By the way, the name New Lion came after Sir William Lyons, who founded the Jaguar. This is my city. It occupies one end of the layout. One of the things I do is I do not put the buildings cheek by jowl next to each other. That doesn't look very realistic. And the other thing is I vary the height of the buildings, same reason. And third, and more critically, the back of the buildings are a good 6 to 8 inches away from the background. I then light that background. There are fluorescent bulbs here, LED bulbs behind it, and they light up the sky. And since my sky has subtle features painted into it, what happens is, as you move from right to left, the buildings seem to move with respect to the sky. The artistic term is called movement. The more proper optical term is called parallax, but it doesn't matter, it works. It gives an extra added sense of depth. Now, this is my city at night. All my buildings are lit. I don't know if I said that or not, but they are. And I vary the lighting so that the buildings in the distance are dimmer than the ones in the foreground. That gives, again, a feeling of distance, as well, of course, varying the size of the buildings. All my foreground buildings in the front here are not only lit, but they have interiors. I'll show you just one. Oops. Here we go. TV store. Woodland Cities came out with this. Beg your pardon? Okay. Woodland Cities came out with this nifty in concept TV store. Very bad in execution. Let's just leave it at that. So I rebuilt all the TVs inside it. I used TVs off the internet circa 1956. And since Perry Mason is my favorite TV show, I took stills from Perry Mason, put them inside the apertures of the TV, backlit them with LEDs and a diffuser, and you can watch the key elements of the very first episode of Perry Mason, including the introduction, Raymond Burr thoughtfully looking into a piece of paper, the cast, the name of the show, the case of the restless redhead, and the hapless but beautiful Evelyn Bagby calling Perry desperate. Edward Hopper appears again. Another one of my favorite paintings, the called Approaching a City. This was one of his, according to his wife, Jo, who was sort of his muse and also his scribe and also his inspiration for a lot of ideas, not to mention his model, and most of his paintings involve women. This was his most foreboding painting. He wanted to evoke the feeling of dread that comes when you're entering a city for the first time and you don't know what's going to happen. Hence, even the rails are painted brown, somber colors all over, and no life in the windows. Well, I couldn't go that far because I had to match the rest of my scenery, but this is what I built. One of the interesting things is when you try to duplicate Hopper in 3D, you discover that he didn't care anything about vanishing points, rectilinear objects, square objects, stuff like that. This building here has got a very odd shape in real life, but nevertheless, I think I captured it pretty well. Another one of my favorite scenes. When I was coming back from college the first time, I saw this bridge over the Delaware River. It said New Line makes, and it said Trenton makes and the world takes. Here it is right here. I thought, you got to be kidding me. That's nuts. Well, it's a real bridge. You can even see it in the movie Human Desire with Broderick Crawford, Gloria Graham, and Glenn Ford. Of course, the name of my city is New Lyon, so I had to make a New Lyon bridge. The bridge itself is made from an MTH arch bridges, which I criminally took apart and restructured. I had engineered all the strength out of it, so there are some aluminum bars underneath holding it up. The letters are again made from electroluminescent panels from Miller Engineering. You cut out the letters, then you cut out the letters again because you realize you cut them out and you dimmed out some of the lights, and there's the bridge. Okay, I want to go back to a two-rail conversion. These MTH F7s, I bought these as two-rail models thinking it would minimize the amount of work I needed to do. They still needed many, many, many mods. In fact, I wrote an article about it in O-Scale Trains, 2 articles. Joe couldn't make it fit in 1 article, so I made 2. If you're considering doing this, I suggest getting a hold of Keystone number 37 and number 38. Jack Consoli wrote, it was a convert about all the PRR F7s are ordered, but it's a great description of all the things that General Motors predicts, EMD produced in building their F7s. Even details down to the gauge thruster and things like that. On these right here, this was my learning curve. This is how I learned to do the 2-rail conversions. Everything about it is grossly changed from the original. From the pilots, to lowering, moving the sides inwards, glass on the windows. But I want to call out something specific. Note the portals. The original portals came Lionel style, these big fisheye lens. Well, I didn't want a Lionel F7. I wanted a PRR F7. So what I did was I popped the portal windows out. I sanded the back out of them with very finer and finer grays. I think I went up to 1500 grit, used plenty of water, and made them look like nice, smooth glass portals, what they should. So with that, I think I've talked enough. It's the end. I have to catch a train. And by the way, yes, I have figured out how to shrink myself by 1/48 and transport myself back in time. I just quite haven't got the other direction figured out yet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. And you did promise before to stay on long enough to answer any questions that the viewers might have. If that offer is still there,
It still holds. I'd be glad to if I didn't talk too long and we haven't
let
lost the
me
audience yet.
let me open the floor for questions. We don't have a lot of time, but we certainly have some. And obviously, I speak for everybody, just blown away by not only what you do, but how you have presented it in such a coherent, cohesive program. Thank you. Anybody got a question or comment?
I have a comment or two. I would like to congratulate John on the magnificent job he's done on his railroad. It speaks to me on so many levels because it's my home territory. My grandmother worked for John A. Roebling at Roebling, New Jersey. Hey, excuse me 1 second.
There's the first we had a dog listen to this presentation.
Okay. Additional questions or comments?
I think he's still talking. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jim, yeah, you're muted.
Can you hear
Go
me?
ahead. Now you're unmuted.
Okay. I wanted to say I also worked for the railroad in that area for 32 years, and I was a block operator, a towerman at that Nassau Tower, which you modeled. And it was quite a thrill for me to see that, and brings me back to the days when I worked that job and brought the Princeton Junction, the dinky into town and let it out. I had to do 2 signals to do that, and also, of course, handle the mainline trains. So seeing your excellent modeling was quite an inspiration to me. I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to tell you, great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, when did you work the tower?
I started on my railroad career as a block operator, and I worked the towers up and down the New York Division. I was qualified at one time in about 10 towers, from the easternmost tower being Pelham Bay on the Hutchinson River in the Bronx, New York area, and the westernmost tower being Grundy Tower in Bristol, Pennsylvania.
Hey, John,
Very
you
good.
you you can stop screen sharing now so we can get a full display of everybody. Thank you.
David, if I could just pop in, hello from New Zealand. It's our Monday here, and I've just been called to a meeting with our local council. Wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Inspiring modelling. And with that, I'll have to part and hopefully catch up with you next month.
Thank you,
Take care.
sir.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
I have John on and Daniel Rabel so I can get my weekly dose of much needed humility. And after seeing the presentations, I'm good for another week at least. So anyway, thank you. All right.
I wanted to thank John for the presentation, and also his layout is good or better than it appears in the pictures. You see it in person, it's a great layout, just say.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. And since these programs are recorded, other people will have the opportunity to see the great presentation over time. So thank you again. Daniel Rabel was on last month. He is also a way that I get my much needed lessons in humility from having somebody with so much talent and so much thoughtfulness about their modeling. He left us, I won't say in mid-program, but he had a number of programs and projects up in the air. and I'd like to fit him in to at least a short update on some of the things that he's been working on. Daniel, welcome.
Well, shucks. Thank you, David. Appreciate the opportunity and certainly the opportunity to present in the last month's presentation. I had received a lot of follow-up questions, which is great to see so many people interested in 3D modeling and how they can benefit from it. And so one thing I did is I actually put together a little YouTube video that I posted online. In fact, let me share if I may here. Everyone's seeing this okay? Is anyone seeing this?
Yeah.
All right, super. So I took what I consider to be three of the more challenging designs that I've made, and I made a YouTube video where you can see exactly what I go through when I'm printing them and just trying to reveal some of my techniques in doing it. Two of them are the tail signs that you see here, the Central's 20th Century Limited sign and the Nickel Plate Roads tail sign. And then also the DT&I cast emblem that was on the tender of their steamers, which is very thin and presents some unique challenge as well. So I made a YouTube video where I just basically put a GoPro on and went out to my shop and showed my techniques for attacking all three of these different designs, hoping that maybe this would inspire some of you who own 3D printers to take a crack at it yourself. And even if you're not printing these particular items yourself, they would give you some ideas that could help you print other similarly challenging elements that you're trying to tackle for your own projects. So there's a link there, or there's a address in the top right-hand corner here of the YouTube video, and or you can just search it by name. I think I called it up here 3D resin printing, for difficult stuff. Search for that or search for my name. It's all up there. And then as well, like anything I do, all my files are online. So you can take a picture of this icon down here or go to this link down here, and that'll bring you to the files themselves, and you can have a go at it. And you'll see my setup. It's a very low rent setup. I literally use a $170 printer and common supplies that we all have in our kitchens kind of already to get it done. So I've been able to make that perform at this level of fidelity, and hopefully through watching this video, you'll be able to, as well. Or even better yet, entice the kid down the street that has a 3D printer to do it for you. And that's a great gateway drug into getting into O-scale model railroading, right? Hey, kid, can you make me a 20th century limited sign? And hey, I wish I had a neighbor like that when I was younger, giving me that kind of guidance. But I'll just take a couple of minutes here and show you some of the things that have rounded off since last we spoke. I think the AARA truck design is complete. I've generated both a plain bearing and a roller bearing design for that for the Timken. We've got it fitted up with Jake Criswell's beautiful plates that he puts together for the Atlas SW switchers. You can see in the lower right-hand corner here, stock Atlas truck, and then with Jay's brass plate and with a 3D printed side frames all nestled in there beautifully. It's a real winner. And so all those are online, and you can download those and do that modification yourself. Although I don't have a picture of it here, I also have a version that will fit snugly down around the Northwest Short Line Stanton Drive. That's one of the projects that Greg Vigiano's been working on for some time for his NW2 project. So you can also get the same AARA truck nestled around a Stanton Drive. I also endeavored on, this is something Tony might be interested in, but for EMD units that had the very small 800-gallon fuel tanks, I put together a design for those small fuel tanks, which were pretty ubiquitous in Jeep 7s in the Midwest. Nickel plate had some in Wabash as well. And then I took that design and with the winged water tanks, modified it to fit around a Sunset Jeep 7 drive. So that's something if you're interested in one of the roads that ran that configuration in the earlier Jeep 7s. That was something that was new since last time. And these are the things that are currently occupying all my time. I was able to get out to Steamtown for the first time in my life. Fell in love with this 10-wheeler that they have out there, which is a nickel plate, later AC and Y, and found a running gear for a 10-wheeler and started to work basically from the tip and backward, coming up with the pilot and pilot truck and those beautiful spoke wheels and smoke box, and all the accoutrements of the oil lighted class lamps and headlamp and all of that. So this is just kind of, one piece at a time, just slowly working from the front to the rear. I'm working on the boiler for it right now. But everything that you see is online for this as well. If you wanted to build your own Class P, this will get you, 30% of the way there, and we'll see how fast we can go. I like to use our shows as kind of deadlines for things. So we just had the Cleveland show. I pushed real hard to get everything that you see here prototyped and printed out so people could enjoy seeing it. And the next one on my calendar is to hopefully make it out to the Chicago meet if I can in March. And boy, if I could have one of these completed by then, that would be really, really great. We'll see. Keep me honest on that. Next to last here is the speeder project. So I was able to basically work from the ground up, from the bottom of the wheel to the top of the frame. Got all that done. Working on the engine right now. Got all the drive laid in, and was able to have prototypes for this out at the Cleveland show the other week. And this was basically the hard part. I think is out of the way now. The tins are going to be a lot easier than getting all the structural elements of the frame. But this is online as well. So I think it'd be cool, for a little shop scene or that to have a torn down speeder being worked on. But we'll finish off with the rest of it here over the holidays. And very lastly, the thing that's taking up most of my time right now is the Blomberg B, and specifically the plain bearing version is what I'm running after first. So I was able to get out to some local museums and do some fitment and checks with the prototype. As you see there on the right-hand side, that was at our local Mad River Museum in Bellevue, Ohio. But now have all the suspension laid in, and I'm currently working on all the brake rigging, and then we'll get to the journals after that. And again, I'd hope to have this all wrapped up by the March show if all works well. And that's everything I had to share. Thank you for all your questions that you've been sending me. Hopefully, I'm answering them sufficiently, and always happy to engage in more. And that's it.
That is incredible. Thank you, Daniel. Just so everybody understands, the whole concept of computer-aided design and 3D printing is going to revolutionize model railroading. You can see that it is giving the ability to produce incredible detail for very specific projects. And while it's going to help model railroading generally, nowhere is the impact of the things that are being done right now going to be more apparent than in O-scale. We have been held back by the tooling costs of projects, by the large minimum orders, and by the necessity to carry a lot of inventory. All of that basically goes away through the proper use of 3D printing. While there are people who are, I will use the term genius loosely, in this area, there is a community of people who are doing fantastic work. Jay Criswell, whom Daniel mentioned, is one of them. Dan Dowdy, who also publishes O-Scale Resource, Sarah Griesenbach, who is from Austria, and obviously Daniel Rabel himself. But one of the things that's really interesting is so many of these folks are making their files available. And while the printing part of it has come along somewhat slowly, more and more resources make 3D printing available commercially. You do not have to be a PhD in 3D printing in order to utilize some of the commercial services that are available. So we will have Daniel back on a regular basis. It's been a while since Jay Criswell was on the show. Sarah Griesenbach we had at one point. But there are just a lot of neat things that are being done. So watch this space. If there are things that are particular to your railroad or to a particular model, you can do things that you would never be able to do using conventional tooling. And the stuff that Daniel is doing and making available is just incredible. So thank you very much, Daniel. We got just a couple of minutes for questions, comments. Anybody got anything? Otherwise, that we do need to move along.
Well, David, I think that you are correct that the real benefactor for this is O-Scale, because when you look at the drawings and the things that has been printed off by the various individuals doing this type of work, the detail is phenomenal, and it certainly accelerates the interest into O-Scale.
Thank you. All right. As I indicated before, I invite highly intelligent and accomplished modelers onto the program so that I can get any needed dose of humility. And by comparison, the things that I'm going to talk about are pretty small potatoes, but hopefully they will be fun. My O-Scale 2 rail layout is large. It's 18 feet wide and 90 feet long. It's comprised primarily of components from 3 predecessor layouts, all of which were well known. The most famous one is John Armstrong's Canandaigua Southern. John and I were 2 of a group of people who had a round robin O-Scale group in the Washington, D.C. area. He was way senior to me. And after he passed away, I worked with the Armstrong family and rescued and integrated with these other 2 layouts a single 18 by 90 layout. And I was particularly proud to do that because most layouts go out in a dumpster after the real estate agent comes in, takes a look down in the basement, and comes running up screaming. But I was able to rescue and integrate. And it's a big layout. It'll never be done. But among the most satisfying changes that I have been able to make since the layout was featured in Great Model Railroads about a decade ago, was to work, recognizing it'll never be done, but I wanted to work with a number of small scenes. And I really recommend these as therapy. If you are looking at a bigger project, you may never get it done, but at least you can take a small one. So I'm going to show you briefly 3. One, the creation of a rural road crossing. Second, the development of a coal tipple and turntable at the end of a coal branch. And finally, the placement of a model that John Armstrong originally built called Nighthawks, which was inspired by the very famous Edward Hopper painting. And these scenes have been mostly constructed by my brother Jim, whose modeling success on the layouts sort of belie his statement that he's not really model railroader. So I'm going to screen share with you on this. I needed a country grade crossing. I model primarily the nickel plate, although I've got a good chunk of the layout as being Canandaigua Southern. And the nickel plate did a lot of running in rural areas in the Midwest. And I needed a dramatic example of that. The scene is built alongside a double track main running through very flat country. We laid out and built a gravel road, which we detailed with grade crossings and gravel ruts with vegetation in the middle. And let me back up. These are sort of poor neighborhoods. We are looking at modest houses, to say the least. And I put this together using pre-made components. First step is to find houses. I needed one on each side of the road. And I would recommend, if you're looking for structures and don't have a lifetime to build them, go to the next show where Bill Davis and his American Models is displaying. Bill buys collections, and included in that a lot of times are used structures. They are plentiful and they're cheap. I picked up two that looked like they would fit, actually a couple, 3 years ago, but with this location in mind. There's a sweet story that goes with the house on the left. Back in the 1950s, not long after I started reading Model Railroader, the magazine would run Model of the Month contests and would display a photograph and story of the winning model for that month. And one of the models that I remembered distinctly at the time was a real ramshackle bungalow with a gaggle of young kids sitting on the porch. The builder was a guy named Johnny Reed, who was a country boy, and he described the house as being from his childhood, and the figures that are sitting on the
David, you need
David, you're not screen sharing.
I'm sorry?
How to do that.
I'm not screen sharing? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Well, okay. Bing. Okay, am I screen sharing now?
It's starting up.
I apologize for that, guys. I clicked it. I even did this PowerPoint without a 12-year-old to help me, so I was really feeling proud of myself on the. Okay, this says I'm screen sharing. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see it now. You need to go full size.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's try that. Okay, since I wasn't there, here is the crossing. That's the house on the left from Johnny Reed, and the figures on the porch are Johnny and his siblings, having grown up in southeastern Kentucky and near, although not quite up the holler. The image and the story of the model stuck with me. And several years ago, I was at Bill Davis's table, probably at a Chicago show, and I found Johnny Reed's model. I don't have any idea where it was for the 70 years between when it was Model of the Month and when I saw it, but I recognized it and bought it and put it in an appropriate location. The key to credible foreground scene is detail. And I am a strong believer in the mini prints line of detail parts. I go through their catalog pretty regularly online. And if you haven't gone there, it is well worth exploration. And I order parts that seem appropriate, so I have them in stock. and then I work from photographs and from memory to place them. The people on the house on the left are, to put it charitably, low rent. They keep pigs and chickens in the yard, and they chop wood for the stove that is the only source of heat. On the right, that's a little more of a upscale. Whoops, these are the houses on the left. A little more upscale, and they've got an oil furnace and indoor plumbing, and a trellis and a small greenhouse. They're lace curtain guys by comparison. And I have also used a certain amount of forced perspective to add depth to the scene. This shelf is about 15 inches wide, and so I start early on that. The crossbuck on the far side of the double track main is actually an S scale. The corn across on the other side is HO. The vehicles on the other side are HO, and it does that and a printed backdrop give a much more depth than you would see with just leaving it all at 1:48. The second scene I want to share with you is the end of a coal branch line. And this, whoops, here we go. This scene started backwards. One of the pieces of track work and scenery that I got with the Armstrong layout was this trestle. And it's actually, if you are a student of John Armstrong and read his series of articles in Model Railroader, you may be familiar with this trestle. It was the subject of jokes among the modeling group, first because the trestle was built before the bents were built, and so it operated for a while with no bents. And second, for a while, the track at the end of the trestle ended in a chasm into which a number of freight cars fell. And there was a certain amount of back and forth and a story and some notes placed right here, ragging on the people who allowed that to happen. Anyway, I found a place in the layout for this trestle, and it didn't go anywhere. It connected to a branch line, but between and to the right of this trestle was a small, sort of a teardrop shaped area with nothing happening. So I made this a branch line and made the trestle to service the branch line. And I needed not only a coal trestle, a coal tipple, which is there with two loading tracks, but I needed a place to turn around the locomotives that would service the coal trestle, as well as a small yard office. So I converted this. This is the main aisle going back that basically passes the entire 90 feet that the layout is. But this is in a nice prominent area, and I was able to put a fair amount of detail up and give the trestle a purpose. The third thing I want to highlight is the model of John Armstrong's Nighthawks. I guess this is Edward Hopper Day, given John Sethian's devotion to the artist. Well worth it, by the way. John who was an art aficionado in addition to a great modeler, was inspired by Edward Hopper, and he built a model of Nighthawks, which is a diner scene viewed at night. And I needed, this is not John's original, that rests with the family still, but I did have kits engineered and manufactured to make the Nighthawks available. I needed a place to put Nighthawks, and John had been pressed for space, so he utilized what space he had. This is approximately where the model was on his layout. Just to the right and off screen is his east tower at the throat of his passenger terminal. And we needed to elevate it. And how do you elevate something credibly? Well, my brother and I used reinforced concrete with access down to the street through a series of what are basically fire escapes. And then I haven't done the entrance to the city yet, although having seen John Sethian's take on Edward Hopper in that scene, I may think about it and try and work it in. Anyway, that's how it showed up above and a little bit away from the tracks. This is looking at it from another angle. If you look down there, you will see that it appears that the street curves around and into the background. In point of fact, you've got another exercise in forced perspective, and that is actually a mirror, and you will see, if you look closely, the lighting is not real good, but up over the top it says cafe. And that is actually in the mirror. And if you look on the model, it's backwards because it needs to reflect with the proper orientation. So this appears to be a street that goes around, curves around to the left. In point of fact, that's the end of the scene. I would note that included in the Nighthawks kit is a second scene, a row of rather stark looking retail stores, which is featured to the left side of the Nighthawks painting, but is also the subject of a separate painting called Wednesday Morning, I think. So that's a couple of the tricks that I used to come up with some detailed scene. And I've had fun with these scenes, all out of proportion to the size. None of them are quite one-day projects, but they are all doable. And they're all in prominent areas. And as I come down into the layout and walk past them, every time I do, I see something in the details that I need to adjust, or that I need to add, or that I need to take out. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. I really recommend these small scenes. You may not be able ever to finish your layout, but at least you can finish one of these scenes and play with it. And I thank you for your time on this, and that concludes the presentation. Thank you. Any questions?
David, I noticed in your chasm scene, you had the mini Prince bicyclist, and I believe her name is Daisy, leaning up against it, but she remains unpainted.
She does, yes. I apologize for that. I saw the fact that she is there only after taking the photograph. I'd forgotten that I put it there. Yeah, that's one of the one of the hazards of mini prints, which is unless you want to pay a rather large price to get them painted, they come unpainted, and they then go into the vast reservoir of unpainted detail parts awaiting the magic paintbrush.
Yeah. Well, I've painted mini prints Daisy in HO scale, so I could only imagine how much easier it might be in O scale.
Thank you. Listen, I know the program is a little long, and we are at the end of the formal part. So I want to thank everybody for your participation and your patience. The next O Scale Central online program will be Sunday, December 14th. That's earlier in the month than it usually is in order not to get tangled up in the holidays. Interesting content is guaranteed. The next invitation will include program dates for 2026. We're going to continue to do these on a monthly basis. If you liked what you saw, one last plug for O Scale Central. Electrons are getting more and more expensive every day, so we really need your dues money to support the programs. Go to oscalecentral.com and find the membership section. So this will include the formal part of the program, but as indicated, we will keep the conference open for informal sharing. O-Scale community is small, but close-knit, and we love the opportunity to share what we are working on and what we're interested in. So as I said, the formal part is over, but we're going to have two general supplemental sections. The first is invite anybody who has any news from manufacturing, kit building, service, and so on to put in a little plug for what you're doing. Happy to have you. Anybody got anything they want to share with us? Okay, I want to plug two things real quick. One is I indicated that I had a kit done in multiple scales for the Armstrong model of Nighthawks. The O scale version of this has been out of stock for about a year and a half, and several people have lobbied me, and I am going to have a small run of these kits made. They will be delivered somewhere around the end of the year. Go to witandwisdommodels.com in order to find out the status and place your order. We're having a run of 12, 10 of them are left. The other project that I've been working on is a project called the Cementipede, also a John Armstrong project. He proto-imagined a 200-ton articulated covered hopper, which he, in his usual punning, named the Cementipede. I have been working with the Armstrong family. I have access to John's project notes, photographs, and drawings, and I had a kit engineered using 3D printing. I believe in my own proselytizing, and so we've had that done. They have been out of stock for a while. I've had a short rerun made. I have two kits left. Again, go to Wit and Wisdom Models online in order to access that if you're interested, particularly if you want one of the kits, please don't wait. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to go to offer anybody here the opportunity to put in a plug for any O-scale equipment that you want to sell or anything that you want to buy and are looking for. Anybody got any information, any plugs, any want ads?
I have a New Jersey brass E8, E9 that is unpainted, and it's been sitting in a box for quite a few years. And it'd be nice to give it out of the way and find somebody that's actually looking for them.
Carl, do you have an email that you would like to share? So if anybody has an interest in it, they could reach out to you.
Sure, I'll even try and type it in and talk simultaneously, but don't count on
Yeah,
that working.
you can put it in chat, by the way. That's
Yeah, that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Put it
Okay.
in chat. So
All right. New Jersey Custom Brass E8, E9 is on sale from Carl Sorensen.
And Carl, what is the price for that?
I'm going to ask 500. It's an A. Well, two A's. One of them's a dummy. Well, maybe it's an AB. It's been a while since I looked at it, but the B unit's a dummy then, if it's an AB.
Anybody else got anything?
I've got something I'd like to share. Those of you who know Public Delivery Track, they are doing a test run. It's not official yet. They need to get enough pre-orders. But if anyone wants an undecorated Atlas MP15 DC, it would be about $420. There's no down payment. And if they can get, I believe, 35 people wanting to go in on that, then they believe they can get Atlas to produce a run. I'll just mention for myself, I've got no use for an MP15 DC. That's way beyond my era, but I put in for two because they're superb running drive mechanisms. And you can easily adapt them to fit, any other four-axle locomotive. You can stretch them out and, throw them in a Jeep if you need to. There's a lot of poor running brass out there that could be wildly upgraded with a $400 Atlas drive. This is the good drive, the horizontal with the dual precision flywheels on there. So I think $400 in 2025 for a smooth running O-scale two-rail locomotive is a real steal. And, if you're going to use it to convert something else, put the shell on eBay for $75 and, partially recoup your investment, in that. But I'd highly encourage any of you that are interested in maybe getting one of your dogs running again on the shelf to consider, picking up one of these MP15s. I hope it happens and we're able to get at least a short run. And beyond that, I have heard, it seems like from the trade shows, I think Atlas was at Train Fest and some people hammered him with questions there. I heard some recon that they said they might do another run of SWs within the next year or two. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that, as well. But those have the equally well-running drives in them as well. So that I'd be much more interested in, but I'll take an MP just the same, just to get the good drive out of it. So maybe that's helpful to some of you as well.
Daniel, thank you very much for remembering that. And that's publicdeliverytrack.com, correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah, I believe Beth over there is the one that's kind of instantiating this. It's her initiative to try to see if she can get 35, orders for that from the current Atlas pre-order catalog. And if you go in there, you'll see an undecorated two-rail DC one. You just put your name on it. There's no down payment. If the order goes, it'll be about $420 when they arrive.
Beautiful. Thanks again. Publicdeliverytrack.com. And if the MP15 is there, then at least the possibility of their SW8, SW9 coming along with the good mechanism is something to think about. Rod Miller, at an earlier part of the program, and I don't remember whether you were online or not, but I did put out an initial plug for O-Scale West with the March 7 to 9 2026. If there's anything you would like to add, I would certainly want to give you time to add it.
Thank you, David. You did a great job with your plug. Excuse me. Well, so we have some updates. I have a lot of energy and a lot of excitement going on with me about the meet. I'm really happy about the new facility, and we seem to be getting a good reception out there. We have 4 layouts that will be visiting the meet, 2 ON30, 1 S, and 1 layout is actually a Lionel layout that will be running 3-rail scale equipment. And because one of the things we want to do in this year's meet is bring the 3-rail scale conversions to 2-rail into a wider, broader focus, because from my point of view, and I may be misinformed, most of the modern equipment that people are running on their layouts start out as a Lionel model. And I think that for people who want to model modern O scale, they need to know more about that. So we'd like to emphasize that.
Yeah, O Scale West, Rod Miller, did a comprehensive survey of people who have attended, and I guess some people who have not attended, and took that feedback and has completely revamped the approach for O Scale West, and I think he is really, really entitled to thanks from all of us. I am planning on coming out, Rod,
Great.
to be at the meet and take a table or two. So
Okay.
we are delighted that O Scale West has had a jolt of energy and hopefully will be on its way back to the kind of really large scale mainstream show that it was has
Well,
been
I'm
historic.
hoping so too. To kind of piggyback on your comment about figure painting, we have a lead on somebody who may be able to give a figure painting clinic. And so that would be something for you, possibly.
Good, good. Maybe we can get that bicyclist painted.
There you go. Yeah.
Anybody else got anything else?
Yes, I have something.
Please.
I have my O scale layout. I'm trying to find a new buyer for it. It's complete. It's 28 feet by 19 feet overall. It's in the form of a loop and two yards that are branch off the loop. It's in I put it in the O scale yard sale, and my contact information is in there. I'm David Mayhew. It's located in Peterborough, Ontario, Canada, and I'm not sure who wants to come that far to get it, but I'm sort of aiming at the guys in Southern Ontario. So if anyone's interested, or if you know anyone who would be interested, give me a shout. I'll just add that it's built in sections, so it can be dismantled and moved. In the past, I've been in other scales, and I have actually sold 2 other layouts of the same size. So, and actually, I sold 1 layout in pieces, and I think the pieces still exist in somebody's layout somewhere here in Southern Ontario. So, if anyone's interested, look at the O scale yard sale, and it's the only layout for sale, so you won't miss it. So,
Can you
thanks.
can you put an email in the chat so that people can follow up if they're interested? I assume we can get some photographs and some more information.
Yes, I will try and do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck on that.
Thanks. Yeah.
And by the way, it's the yards and all the switches and the wiring and so on that take up a lot of the time. So if you can shortcut that process by getting some ready-made components, that would be good. Anybody else got anything? I'm going to leave it open for a few more minutes, just in case anybody wants to add something, either on the screen or in the chat. And otherwise, I really appreciate everybody's attendance and participation, and I hope we see you next month on December 14th. We'll have some interesting stuff. All right, David Mayhew has put something in the chat with contact information.
Quick question for Daniel, if I may.
Daniel, you're still here? Yeah, Daniel's here.
On the wheels on the motor car, is there a 3D printed material that works really good as far as it being a rolling car, or is that could go for all the other trucks too? Something like that.
Yeah, the way to do that ultimately, is to go with a metal. And so 3D printing a master with a castable resin is definitely the way to go if you want an operational car. For example, like the pilot truck on the 10-wheeler with those spoked wheels, you can 3D print a castable resin and then go, with a nickel wheel. Ultimately that's going to be almost as good as the fidelity of the castable resin. And those Fairmount wheels are so cool. And I try to capture all the markings and everything that are in them. It'll be really interesting to see how much of that will transfer to metal. That'll definitely be. Honestly, I'm more interested in just having a nice looking static car, but all of this is one big science experiment to me, anyways, just to push the capability. So I'll ultimately try to make some metal wheels, out of the Fairmont car as well, and just see, what we can do. Because I know what's coming next. What kind of drives are we going to put in that little Fairmont?
Yeah, I've had a few people recommend the Stanton drive, and I had a 44 tonner that I had to get shorter spacing between the wheels, and they had to use an S scale drive to make it work. And
Gotcha.
After doing that, and someone making the suggestion, you ought to do that it's kind of heading that way.
Yes, and there are some phenomenal HO scale drives that are very easy to find on eBay. The Tenchoto drives. I've been looking at those as a possible candidate for this. Should I want to power an O scale speeder that could give just about the right 6 foot, wheelbase in there, but we'll see. A lot of things need to happen first, though, before I'll be running a Fairmont speeder at O scale.
Yeah.
But
Keep me
we're getting there.
informed. Keep me informed because I'm working that direction.
Yep, understood.
Carl, if I remember correctly, has some 12-inch to the foot models of speeders. So you can get
two 19s and a 14.
Okay, well you
Sweet.
can get the world's largest Stanton drive for those.
Sometimes
All
that'd
right.
be easier than working on the Onans.
Well, you can check all my torque settings on my design file, make sure I got everything just right. I did put the cotter pins in there. So if I didn't peen them over just right, you let me know.
I'm still occasionally getting in trouble for not putting my cotter pins the right direction, so I'm not the one to ask.
Yeah. I just try to make them look good.
All right. If there's nothing else, I think we'll probably call it a day. I really appreciate your time, patience, participation, and I particularly appreciate the presentations from Daniel Rabel and from John Sethian. John's presentation just blew me away. and Daniel's knowledge, ingenuity, and energy is just really an inspiration to everybody. Thank you all. Have a good rest of the weekend. By the way, Ken Burns' American Revolution begins on PBS tonight for anybody who is interested. It's going to be a killer presentation.
Oh, cool. Thanks for the reminder.
Thank you all.
Thanks all.
See you next month, I hope.
See ya.
Giving.